Hey, how's it going there, brothers of the Briar? Treetop Piper coming at you tonight. I compiled a semi-short list of old movies and actually modern movies that speak of or make note of pipe smoking. And and I actually, perhaps, I define that differently than some people because, I'm looking for my tamper. Because honestly, it doesn't necessarily have to be a downright pipe smoking or a movie where pipe smoking is, a large part of it and constantly a part of it. Like, I recommended Captain's Courageous to Sylvia Stefan or something or other like that. In that particular movie, they're actually like kind of smoking just about every scene. The captain smoked, half the crew smoked. John Carradine, which is Keith and David Carradine's father, um, he was a great character actor years ago. Fantastic. He was one of the best. And he was in it. He played a supporting role. He also smoked a pipe. Big old bent pipe. Looked like one that Sherlock Holmes smoked in those movies. Um, Real English, smooth, billiard, bent kind of deal. Kept his tobacco in a roll pouch. Mm. But I actually came up with about 31. And like I said, I may define a pipe smoking movie slightly differently. Because to me, a movie that's a big deal for me, especially if I know it's a good film or it's a film that I treasure. That I know for sure is I'm gonna enjoy. If it's like like maybe Gone with the Wind or Lawrence of Arabia, and I know I'm in for a 3 or 4 hour story. Taken filmed on location. All they have to do is just kind of get in the realm of pipe smoking, and all of a sudden I'm in that mood. If there's Englishmen in uniform, I just naturally I typically associate them with pipe smokers, or especially older Englishmen. In a lot of movies, they tend to be the guys that smoke the pipe. And there's also a lot of modern movies that it's in that it's only there for one scene and you forget about it. A couple of great examples of that: Quentin Tarantino, Inglourious Bastards. It's only at the very beginning that he does that scene with the calabash and the corn cob. Another one, The Hateful Eight. One scene in the stagecoach at the beginning between Kurt Russell and Sam Jackson. one scene, you know, maybe a conversation they had over one bowl of tobacco. And I would consider that in the realm of a pipe movie, or a movie that used pipes as as sort of a tool or a storytelling device to bring you back to that period of time. I mean, because that's what he was doing. I mean, the fact that he had Christoph Waltz smoking out of a calabash, obviously it was a statement he was making. I mean, that's the quintessential pipe. When people think of pipes, they literally think of gourd calabashes. Especially Sherlock Holmes, when they think of him, they think of a gourd calabash. When maybe some stage actors that did the stories on the stage, they may have smoked a calabash or wore a deer stalker, but he never did in the stories. I read the stories. The Red-Headed League. He kept his tobacco. I was talking to Stefan about this. He kept his tobacco in a Persian slipper. And in the movie, it just looks like one of those leather cinch top pouches with a long curling. I need to get a good tripod, because I'm getting a lot of wobble out of this gooseneck mount. Kind of feel bad about that. That and the sugar sand and that I'm setting on here in the camper. But I digress. Yeah, he never smoked a calabash, but he was also a connoisseur. He examined over 180 different. He had categorized and examined every single strain of tobacco. He had burned and examined the ash and could tell you exactly what strand of tobacco that it was, that the ash came from, just from the ash. And in the stories, a lot of times he would find a cigarette or a cigar ash on a windowsill, and that would lead him to, it would be a particular type of blend that only guys from India smoked. So then, bam, he's got a lead. There was a lot of that happened, and he was known for his knowledge of tobacco. Actually, he was actually known for that. He was like the foremost mind of tobacco, if you will. The guy could he used it as a detective device, as a way to put people at the scene of the crime, because he could tell you exactly what tobaccos were in a bit of ash on a windowsill, or he would know that there was Perique in it, and he'd say, there's only 2 shops in the entire city that sell cigarettes with Perique in them, and he would go to those 2 shops and inquire, see if he could get some clues, tell him what tobacco blend he was looking for, or what it had in it, and who orders that. But the whole Sherlock Holmes, it's just fraught with pipe tobacco. I mean, it really, you really can't quite get around it. I mean, he referred to problems as 1 pipe problems, 2 pipe problems, 3 pipe problems, 5 pipe problems. the amount of time it took him to smoke one pipe. That's what a one pipe problem was. He could solve it by the end of the bowl. And I kind of wanted to point out, this is my talking pipe right here. It's like my talking pipe, my conversation pipe, if you will. Anyway, the first one that came to mind, it's a movie I watch a lot, actually. One of my favorites from Bob Mitchum, from Robert Mitchum. I think it's 1960. I want to say it was the year. It was in the 60s. Called The Sundowners. It's about a transient or nomadic family of three: a wife, a husband, and like a teenage son. And they were referred to as sundowners because they lived where the sun went down, meaning they didn't have a home. They slept. The son slept in the wagon, and the husband and wife slept in a tent. And the movie was about their struggles, but it took place in Australia. He was a drover and a sheep shearer, a good sheep shearer. And there's several scenes where he actually has they set up a competition between him and the next shearing shed over, down the road, to make money. They want to, take each other's money, so they invited some other guys over and set up a little competition and put him up against the other team's competition. Well, he ends up getting smoked, and the guy smoked a corncob pipe that beat him. He was an old man, and they couldn't believe it. This big strapping guy's getting whipped by this little old guy that's making fun of him. He's like, I don't know why they picked me. I'm the worst guy we got. He's just rubbing it in, making him feel salty, like. Yeah, it was a good flick anyway. The Australians, same as the English, and Irish too. Pub goers, pipe tobacco smokers, that was their thing. They drank beer, and that's where they socialized. They socialized at the pub, smoked pipe tobacco, and drank beer. We used to do the same thing. All British colonies were this way. We were the first because, America's where tobacco come from, but the second one was a lust for life, and that was, I brought that up in the video this morning. And that's really only because it's so fraught with pipe smoking. I mean, yet there's no way you could that you could argue it's not about it, or that pipe smoking wasn't a big part of Vincent van Gogh's character. Either that, or it was just a plot device. But I think it was actually a part of his character, because I think Willem Dafoe reprised the role. And he was a big-time pipe smoker. And it's funny because in Lust for Life, that was made in the late 50s, early 60s. And I guess Danish pipes were all the rage. And he smoked a Danish pipe, even though it was a freehand. He smoked freehands. I don't know if those were around back in the 1880s and 90s. I'm not sure. I know a lot of the Germans smoked those big Cavalier pipes that, come apart and stuff. For transport, ceramic pipes and what have you, with weird mouthpieces on them and whatnot. But That was one. Him and Paul Gauguin. And Paul Gauguin is played by Anthony Quinn. And they both. And then there's also another character who ends up dying in a coal mine, who he actually makes his entrance in the movie by throwing an empty pipe tobacco pouch on the ground while Van Gogh is preaching, as a sign of disrespect. Like, how dare you talk of this pious bilge, to us, basically the people that struggle the hardest on earth. He was in a poor little mining town in Belgium. But then, anyway, moving on. Number 3, The Stranger, and that was with Edward G. Robinson and Orson Welles. And I'm sure you guys, you've noticed Edward G. Robinson has a blend named after him, or a whole line or a blend. And that's because he was a huge cigar smoker and a huge pipe smoker. That he really smoked. That was his thing. I believe he liked simple things, beauty, and he liked art. He liked pipe tobacco. They've got a blend named after him. But in that Stranger, he plays a Nazi hunter for the U.S. government, and Orson Welles plays an escaped Nazi who was able to keep his face out of the papers while the Nazis were in power. So he was able to slip into the shadows and disappear, even though he was like behind all the framework of everything. Like he was either behind Hitler or Hitler's right-hand man. So, they put their best detective on hunting the guy down, and that's Edward G. Robinson, and he smokes this big old pot. This big old billiard pot. It's super chunky and masculine, that he smokes in the whole movie. And then another one that I've been watching a lot lately that's fraught with pipe smoking. It's just like Lust for Life. And it's from the golden year of Hollywood, 1939, Goodbye, Mr. Chips, which I believe had some sort of an Academy Award nomination or possibly a win. And it had Robert Donat, who was in The Count of Monte Cristo, the original, and Greer Garson, who she'll come up several times in this. She was a famous actress back then, very motherly. And that was about a master at an English grade school. It's so weird because back then the Englishmen, those boarding schools, they really wore cap and gowns. The teachers, that's what they wore in class over their suit, was a cap and gown. It was crazy. It's silly. We only wear that once a year. They would wear it every day. The next one I put down was number 5, Rob Roy. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that's a newer one. That was it's got Liam Neeson plays the titular character, Robert Roy McGregor, who is a lot like William Wallace, Scottish folk hero. Although William Wallace is half a millennium prior, 5 centuries prior. But Rob Roy, Liam Neeson was in that. A lot of John Hurt was in it from Alien and V for Vendetta. He did really good. So Tim Roth was amazing in that movie. And then there's a guy that plays the Duke of Argyll. If you look carefully, that is the Admiral Agrippa from Cleopatra from the 60s as an old man. plays the Duke of Argyle in Rob Roy. It's weird. If you look it up, and when you see him as a young man, you're like, what in the hell? He doesn't look anything like the old Scotsman in that one. It's really weird. It really is. The guy aged. He didn't age poorly. He just didn't look very similar. The next one, had to bring this up. I think Anthony Quinn must have been a pipe smoker as well, because in the Guns of Navarone, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but man, the entire movie he's smoking a pipe. Every time he separates from them and then gets back together with them, he's hiding, and then, he pops out in the shadows. He's smoking a pipe. He's waiting for them smoking a pipe, and, laughing, that he heard them coming minutes before, and would, tap out his pipe while some Nazis were searching the boat they're on. Like, stop, the Nazis are telling him to do something, and he starts walking and then stops halfway, taps out his pipe and scrapes it with a knife, just to be like, fuck you, like, I'm in no hurry. So I think he must be some sort, he must have been a pipe smoker, because he sure as hell smoked a lot of pipes in that movie. That's all he did was smoke. Andreas Stavru, that's what he went by. That's what his name, Colonel Stavru, in that. That's all he did was smoke a pipe in that movie. And it was great. He's great. He was smoking a pipe. Here's another, Hateful Eight's one I put down. That's number 7. Number 8, I just threw down any of the 6 Tolkien films. Any of the 3 of The Hobbit. Any of the 3 of The Lord of the Rings. I mean, those go without saying. Inglourious Bastards. Moby Dick. The beginning of that movie, it starts mostly in a bar, pretty much. It begins in a tavern, and there's a lot of clay pipe smoking going on. Gregory Peck plays the Captain Ahab. And then also in 12 O'Clock High, another Greg Peck movie from the 40s or 50s. He plays a general in World War II in the Air Corps. And his adjutant, basically his paperwork man, smoked a pipe the whole movie, smoked a billiard the whole movie. He was an American. I don't know if you guys have seen the original Frankenstein from 1932, but the beginning of that movie starts out with a burial. With a funeral. When the funeral's over and everybody walks away, that's when the gravedigger gets to work. And he pats down the grave when he's finished, and then shucks a match right off of his pants, and his jacket's off. He's collecting his jacket. He's got a little waistcoat on, a vest, a waistcoat with sleeve holders, sleeve holders on. Strikes a match and lights a corncob pipe, and it wasn't sleeve holders. They were they were like garters, I guess, to keep his pants from being too bad. I don't know, to keep his pants from being too big. And anyway, he was the beginning of that. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a pipe movie, but there's a nice little scene where the gravedigger smokes a pipe as he's leaving, and then they rob the grave, ghouls. Another one that I know there's some smoking in is Out of Africa with Robert Redford and Meryl Streep from the 80s. That one's in my personal collection. It's a really good flick. You know, it takes place in Kenya. Bunch of Englishmen sitting around clubs, smoking tobacco. Number 14, Men of Honor, like I brought up this morning, with Robert De Niro and Cuba Gooding Jr., and where Robert De Niro smokes a one of those football-shaped cobs with the long round stem and the short amber bit. Another one with Greg Peck. I was talking about the snows of Kilimanjaro. I believe when they go on safari in Africa, their great white hunter, their guide, smokes a pipe, as well as his uncle smokes a pipe. There's several scenes where there's a pipe involved. And then The Lighthouse, that's one of the newer ones, with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. You know, Willem Dafoe, they're going nuts on each other the whole time, the whole movie. Willem Dafoe's smoking tobacco out of his clay pipe, and he'd smoke it upside down. I always think that's so funny how guys would smoke them upside down, but I have to with straight pipes. I'll smoke them upside down. Does it really matter? You know, honestly, it burns fine, and the ash doesn't collect. Another one, Django. DiCaprio smokes his little church warden there. A couple scenes in that. And then number 18, The Man with No Name trilogy, meaning Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef. That's you guys. You let it slip your mind. Can't forget the obvious, man. Those are heavy hitters right there. People buy sooted pipes specifically because that's what Lee Van Cleef smoked. They buy pipes that are browned and sooted and made to look old so that they look like a Lee Van Cleef pipe from those movies. From For a Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Clint Eastwood plays the man with no name. A lot of them are John Ford movies, and just so happen to have John Wayne in them, like The Quiet Man. It was a movie that took place in Ireland. So they're all smoking Petersons and Dublins and billiards, and I mean it's one of those movies just fraught with pipe smoking. John Ford was a pipe smoker. He's a famous director. And he was a pipe smoker, so naturally his movies are just going to be slap full of them. And they always are. He uses the same stock company, same guys, same stock actors. And they're all pipe smokers, I imagine. But the next one, number 20, Dead Poets Society, with Robin Williams and Ethan Hawke. I don't know if you guys realize, but there is quite a bit of pipe smoking goes on in that movie. Which makes sense. I've noticed a lot of times it was almost a rite of passage for Englishmen. When you graduated from Oxford, you came home a pipe smoker. You know, you came home a thinker, a pipe smoker. You know, you had to talk the talk and walk the walk. You know, if you wanted to be respectable and, you know, I mean, you had to play your part. If you graduated from Oxford, you had to play the part. You know, it's the same as it is here. You know, you got to play the part. Another Irish one, How Green Is My Valley. That was also directed by John Ford with Maureen O'Hara and Walter Pidgeon. Takes place in Ireland. A lot of pipe smoking going on. Then number 22, Mrs. Miniver. I think that won an Academy Award in the 40s. It was a World War II flick. And her son actually comes home from Oxford smoking a pipe. He ends up flying for the Royal Air Force. And Greer Garson is in that, and she does a great job. Walter Pidgeon plays the father, Greer Garson plays the mother, and Walter Pidgeon actually takes place of the flotilla with the yachts and stuff that the English sent out to pick up the men on Dunkirk. Walter Pidgeon actually takes his yacht out for it in that movie. But 2023 here, Mr. Blandings builds his dream house with Cary Grant and Melvin Douglas. And there's actually like a running joke in that whole movie where Melvin Douglas is constantly packing his pipe with Cary Grant's tobacco, because he's actually helping the guy, like helping him build his dream house, and the guy's being talked into it by his wife, and they just keep stacking on stuff that's going to cost a fortune. Contractors are coming out of nowhere. They're paying for, the wife makes a change and adds a sink and a little lowered step, so she could do some flower and potting, and it costs some thousands of dollars for one step in a sink. So it's just a total crap show, and that guy rubs it in by smoking his tobacco the whole movie. And then number 24, another one with Cary Grant. It's a World War II sub-movie. Destination Tokyo. Cary Grant smokes a billiard in that a lot. And that was the only serious role he ever played, and he swore he would never play another serious role like that, where he played a ship's captain, and we were actually at war. I don't think he liked the pressure, and he could not joke about that. We were at war, propaganda film and whatnot. People would not like him. He's, English. They would have a serious issue, take serious issue with that. So he swore off of ever doing movies that serious again. He didn't like it. And then another one, this is kind of lighthearted, The Great Mouse Detective. I don't know if you guys ever seen that. It's one of my childhood favorites. It's a Disney cartoon. And it's a Sherlock knockoff, but it's a mouse. But he smokes a pipe a lot, and there's a lot of smoking going on in that movie. One of my favorites. There's some in The Sword and the Stone as well, but yeah. As well as Alice in Wonderland, the hookah smoking caterpillar. The next one's the Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch. There was pipe smoking. There was a lot of pipe smoking in that. And there was a lot of pipe smoking in A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, because they were in an Ivy League school in the 50s. There's a lot of pipe smoking going on. You got The Bad and the Beautiful. Kirk Douglas, Dick Powell, and Walter Pidgeon and Lana Turner. She's really good looking. It's an excellent movie. Vincent Minnelli, who directed Lust for Life, directed that. And Dick Powell plays an author that smokes a pipe the whole movie. Yeah, he just smokes a pipe the whole darn movie, and he's in the whole movie. So, and then number 26, 28, classic James Bond films with M. The male M. He always smoked a pipe. Always had a pipe. And like 30 Bond movies. And then most all of John Ford movies with his stock players typically smoked pipes. Like there was one called The Long Voyage Home that had John Wayne played a bit part. That's how old that movie was. He played a bit part. He played this big Swede that could barely speak English. He only had a few words, and he had this ridiculous accent. But there's a lot of pipe smoke going on because John Ford considered himself an Irishman, so he liked to write stories about Irishmen that smoke pipes. That's what he was. And number 30 would be Dial M for Murder by Alfred Hitchcock with Ray Milland and Grace Kelly. Ray Milland smokes a pipe. He smokes a pipe in that. That was one of Hitchcock's best movies, too. Ray Milland was most excellent. Grace Kelly was really good, and she only did 7 or 8 movies. But that's about it. That, and then the last one was A Long Voyage Home. But, I just made a little short list for you guys. Just some stuff, some movies that I've seen and considered pipes. There's some old ones in there. There's some new ones in there. There's something for everybody, really, I would say the trick is to just get yourself in that frame of mind. Take yourself back to a time like that, like Lawrence of Arabia, for instance. Where there's pipe smoking going on amongst a bunch of imperial Englishmen, officers in a war. That's all they did was smoke pipes and play billiards. And even in that Goodbye Mr. Chips, it's an English movie, but there's a part of it where he's in Austria, and there's a bald Austrian guy in lederhosen smoking a crazy looking Cavalier, one of the ceramic ones that they would take apart and that had the weird tubular mouthpiece that had the flange on the end. I mean, they kind of covered all the bases in that movie, and Greer Garson was in that too. I mean, there was a point where he was stuck on the mountain in Austria that he's smoking out of this little teeny pipe, a little pocket pipe he had with him. But anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut you guys loose for tonight. I'm probably gonna bust out one of these new pipes and smoke one of these, either this Clay Peterson or this Silver Spigot Peterson, or maybe even that Tanzanian desk pipe. But I kind of want to christen a new pipe with a new tobacco, or at least a new tin. But anyway, I'm just running off here with 40 minutes on the clock, darn near. But I'll let you guys go. Y'all have a good one. Have a good night. Treetop Piper over and out.